Hello everyone. In this module, we will learn to create a group bar chart in Matplotlib, and the following are the topics that we are going to discuss. Firstly, we will learn how to create a group bar chart. After that, we will see the syntax to create them, and then we will see example related to it. So let's begin. Basically, a group bar chart is also an extended type of a bar chart. It is also referred to as a multiple line bar chart or a clustered bar chart. A group bar chart is similar to the standard bar graph with an exception that each category has two or more bars, one for each category. In other words, it is used to show the discrete value for two or more categorical data. So with this, we conclude that if we want to represent multiple set of data for a single category, we can use either stacked bar graph or a group bar graph. But there is a slight difference between both of them. In the stacked bar graph, we will place the bars one above the other, and in the multiple bar graph, we will place the bars next to each other. So I will show you example. If I want to represent the male and the female population of different countries using the bar graph, I can present that using a group bar graph in this way. So here is the first bar for a man, next is for women. So if I want to represent in a group bar chart, I place it in that. Here I am placing bars next to each other, not on the above of each other. So that's why it is known as a group bar chart. If I place both the bars on one above the other, it is known as a stacked bar graph. So both the bar chart, group or stacked, are similar. So the characteristics and the uses of both of them are also similar. So I am not discussing them again as we discussed these characteristics and the uses in the previous module. So we will continue with the syntax. So firstly, I will explain you the syntax of a vertical group bar chart, or we can say that the simple group bar chart. And to plot a group bar chart, we call the bar function of the matplotlib pyplot module. And the syntax is like that: matplotlib.pyplot.bar, and we pass different parameter to it as x, height, width, bottom, align, data, and keyword arguments. So I explain this. It makes a bar plot, we know that. But if we want to convert it into a group bar chart, the bars are positioned at x with a specific distance so that another bar is set next to the prior bar with the given alignment, and their heights and the width determine their sizes. So we will see examples related to vertical group bar chart. Here is the code for a simple group bar chart. So I explain it. Firstly, I import the necessary libraries, which is matplotlib pyplot as plt and the numpy as np. After that, I define the data coordinate as a state and the different years. Then I define the width 0.2 in the variable w. As I told you, we want to adjust bars next to each other. For that, we have to define x value. So for that, I write these three lines. I explain you. So in the first variable, year underscore 22x, I use the range function and the length function of a numpy to get evenly spaced value within the length of the states object. Then in the variable year underscore 19x, I use the function as I plus w for I in year underscore 22x, which iterates the width value through the year 22x. And similarly, in the next case, I use for 16x. By using these three functions, it plays bars next to each other. So it is nothing. Basically, it increases the same width value to the next. I use the bar function to plot the group bar chart. In the first case, I call the bar function and pass year underscore 22x as a x value, and for the height I call the year underscore 2022, and for setting the width I call the width parameter and sets its value to the w, and I also add labels by calling the label function as is 2022. In the next case, I call the bar function and pass x as a year underscore 19x and the height as a year underscore 19, same exactly width as a w and the label as 2019. And in the next case, I call a bar function again for year underscore 16x as a x and the height as a year underscore 16 and width set to the w and the label as a 2016. Then I call the x label and the y label function to add labels at the axis. So with this, we say that x-axis represent the states and the y-axis represent the number of votes. Then I call the title function to get to know what this plot represents. So this plot represents the votes per candidate in the US states. So then I call the ligand function to add a ligand to the plot, and to handle the ticks at the x-axis I call the xticks function and sets its location by using the np.arrange function and the length function. And to set the labels I pass the state, and to display the plot I call the show function. Now I execute this code and here is the output. You can clearly see that the bars are represented next to each other. Here you can see that in the ticks location I use the range and the length function, but I also add w to it. What this w does, if I remove it, what will happen? I will show you. I remove this. Now I execute this. You can see that these tick labels are placed on the left sides of the bar, not in the middle or the center. So put it in the center. I add width value to it, so it can be placed in the center of the bars. So now you can see that the name of the state labels are placed in the center of a bar. So that's why I add w to this. Now we will see one more example. If we want to change the color of the bars, how we can change it. So for this I call the color function and set different colors to the different bars. For the first bar I set the color as a sky blue. For the next bar I set color as a lavender, and for the third bar I set color as a light coral. Now I execute this code. The other remaining code is same as the above discussed, and here is the output. You can see that the colors of the bars change. Now we will discuss the syntax to create a horizontal group bar graph, and for this we call the bar h function of a pyplot module. The function is as matplotlib pyplot.barh, and we pass different parameters to it as y, width, height, left, align, and keyword org. Basically it draws a horizontal bar graph, but to convert it into a group bar graph, the bars are positioned at y with a specific distance, so that another bar is set to next to the prior bar with the given alignment, and the width and their height determine their sizes. So now we will see the examples related to horizontal group bar chart. So here is the example for a simple horizontal group bar chart. Firstly I import the necessary library as matplotlib and numpy. Then I define the data coordinates at the month and the names of the cars as a Tesla, Ford, and Jeep. Then I define height. In the case of a vertical group bar chart, we define width, but in case of a horizontal group chart, we define height and set it to the 0.2. In the case of a vertical group bar chart, we set the x value to adjust bar to the next to each other, but now we are representing group bar chart in horizontal alignment. For that reason, we define y values to adjust the bar next to each other. So here I create a variable Tesla underscore h, and to define it I use the range function and the length function of a numpy module. So to set the value for the Tesla underscore h, we use the range function and the length function of a numpy library to get evenly spaced values within the length of the month object. Next, for Ford underscore case, I use I plus h for I in Tesla underscore h function. It iterates the height value through the Tesla underscore h, and similarly for the other cases I use this I plus h for I in Ford underscore h. Basically it is a for loop which iterates over the height and adjusts the bar next to the each other. Now we plot the group bar chart in the horizontal alignment. For that we call the bar h function, and in the first case I pass y value as a Tesla underscore h and the width as Tesla and height as h, and I also define label as a Tesla. In next case I again call a bar h function, but I pass y as a Ford underscore h, width as Ford. I also again set the height as a h and label as a Ford. And in next case I call bar h function. It takes y as a Jeep underscore h, width as a G, height as a h, and the label as a Jeep. Then I call the labels function, x label and the y label function, to set labels at the x-axis and the y-axis. With this we know that x-axis represent the sales and the y-axis represent the month. Then I call the title function. It shows what the plots represent. So with this we know that the plot represent the sales of a different car brands in US. So then I call the ligand function to show the ligand at the plot. Next, to handle the ticks at the y-axis, I call the vertex function and pass a range and the length function of a numpy to it, and I add h value to it and set labels as a month. In the vertical case, we call the xtix function and add width to it, but in the horizontal case, we call the vertex function and add h to it, so that the labels are presented in the middle of the bars. And then I call the show function to display the plot. Now I execute this code and here is the output. You can see that this plot shows the sales of a different car brands in a horizontal format of a group bar chart. The blue line represent the Tesla, orange line represent the Ford, and the green line represent the Jeep. We get all these details from this ligand. Now we will see one more example in which we want to change the color of these bars. So to change the color of the bars, we call the color function and set different colors to it. The first color I set as a light gray, the next color I set as a pale green, and the last one is a mystery rose. The remaining code is same, so I execute this code and you can see that the colors of the bars change to the set ones, which we define now. So with this we have learned how to plot group bar chart. So in the next module we will learn how to plot histogram in Matplotlib.